Hi, everyone. Welcome to the House of Lou podcast. This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by the Kemper Art Museum at WashU. Hopefully, by now, you've had a chance to listen to part one of my series about working with an interior designer. In that episode, I talked to two homeowners about their experiences, and from all the comments and feedback that I've received, it seems like many of you enjoyed that, so that makes me super happy. Today, we're diving into the same topic, only this time we're going to hear from the point of view of the designers themselves. So with me today are two of my very favorites, Korn of Korn Interiors and April Jensen of ADJ Interiors. I've known and covered both women's work for a long time. We featured their projects in the magazine and online, and I can't say enough about their talent and creativity, and they really are just lovely, lovely women to be around. So I can't wait to get into that conversation. But first, here's what's been going on in and around my house. By the time this episode airs, I will be back from a mini vacation with my family to Key Biscayne, where I hope to get some much needed downtime. I plan to sit in the sun, see some art, and visit the Fruit and Spice Park, where I've never been. It's a botanical garden about an hour's drive from Miami that grows rare tropical produce from around the world, so I can't wait to see it. Also, by the time this airs, I should be that much closer to finalizing the details of a yard sale that I'm planning. I caught the bug. I think it all started with my conversation earlier this year with professional organizers Janine Adams and Becky Bulow. They talked about simplifying your life as the key to getting organized. So I decided to do something about that and all of the things in my home that at one point, brought me a lot of joy, but that no longer serve me. I'll be sure to keep you updated on that too. And in case you missed it in my newsletter, KDR Designer Showrooms is under new ownership. Brad and Kim Gilmore of St. Louis are the new owners, and I'm looking forward to meeting them very soon and learning about what they have in store for St. Louis. I'm headed to Spring Market tomorrow at KDR and hope to see them there. I also want to be sure to give a shout out to Crescent Plumbing Supply, which won an Innovative Showroom Award at the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show in the category of medium-sized showroom. Kudos to all of them. It is a beautiful showroom, and I hope you get the chance to visit it and see it for yourself. We'll be right back. This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by the Kemper Art Museum at WashU. Opening February 21st and running through July 28th, Seeds, Containers of a World to Come brings together works by 10 contemporary artists who explore issues of fragility, preservation, and possibility through the lens of the seed. The exhibition includes a range of captivating artworks from sculpture and film to installation and painting that reflect on our current environmental challenges and our connection to the natural world. Visit kemperartmuseum.wustl.edu for more information. Now it's on to my interview with Korn and April Jensen. Welcome to the podcast, ladies. It's so fun to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We're usually in a house or I'm interviewing you maybe over the telephone. So this is a treat to be able to spend time with the two of you in person. I want to start by getting a little bit of background from each of you. Can you tell our listeners how long you've been working in the business and what attracted you to the field of interior design?
Karen, do you want to go first?
No, let me go.
Well, it's hard for me to even believe this, but it's 34 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my background is in interior design. That's what I received my degree in, along with a minor in art history. I think I became kind of infatuated with design in general, whether it was fashion, residence, architecture, art. It's just always been something that was a part of me. My mom was really into it. Our house was always very nice, very put together.
I remember you talked about that
Yes,
in the
yeah.
story about your house.
Yeah. And I think she taught me from an early age that your home is there not just to look good, but it also nurtures you. So she was very particular about everything, but organized. It always felt good to go home. And it just, I guess, stuck with me.
Yeah, what a thing to say, right? It always feels good to
Yeah.
go home.
It still does.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Karen, how about you?
I took a different path. I started in the corporate world, and through a life experience, I had to end that career. And I decided I definitely wanted to go back to work, and I wanted to do exactly what I wanted to do, and that was interior design. And so I went back to school, graduated in 2006 from Merrimack, St. Louis Community College. And it's a great school. And really just piddled around in it for a long time, went into interior design full time in 2017 and just started Korn Interiors about 5 years ago. And the reason why, my why, is that I understand deeply how a really well designed home and something that feels comfortable impacts your well being. And I am very drawn to creating that for my clients.
And so I'm wondering what you both think makes a good designer. What do you think you bring to a project that homeowners really can't get anywhere else?
For
April?
me, a good designer is being someone that's a good listener and also obviously our talent and expertise, knowledge in various facets of interior design, understanding not just decor, but also construction and the elements that go into renovating and building. You have to be multifaceted
Yeah.
and also, just allowing them to have the confidence to enjoy the process because you're there as an advocate for them and bringing things to the table that they might not have thought of. I always feel like the best design happens when they already know what they want, but they don't have the language or the how to get it.
Right.
So that's what we bring to the table. But I think it starts with being a good listener.
I do think that being a good listener is really foundational to what you do because the layperson really doesn't really have, like you said, the language to talk about what they might want for their home. And for you to be able to extract that and figure that out takes really listening.
It does.
Very much to your client. And I think some designers are better at that than others.
It's very intuitive. And I can't,
That's a good word.
sometimes it's hard to explain, but clients come to us and you're listening, but you're watching them, you're observing them in their house, what they're wearing. There's a lot that goes into that intuition and observing and listening. And many times they're like, how did you know? How did you know that, they're just taken aback. And I think it's a skill that maybe you can't learn. And maybe that's why we excel at what we do. But I would go back to what April said also is that the education is imperative. It looks like from social media that it's easy.
Right.
It is not easy.
No.
There are so many details that we think about day and night that somebody would never know to think about. But isn't that pretty picture in the end? It's the process from the beginning to the end.
And I think also people don't realize the amount of time that it can take, right? It's not instantaneous. It's not an instant makeover that's happening.
It's not HGTV.
Karen, you both talked about being a good listener, but you mentioned being a good observer, which I think is such a crucial part, right? You're looking at everything in a home including what a person might be wearing. So I would love for the two of you to walk us through that first client meeting. April, can you take that?
Typically, our first meeting is followed by, we're following up from a phone call.
Okay.
So we'll do a bit of a meet and greet, get an understanding of what their needs are, maybe via a phone call, and set up that initial consultation. And on that initial consultation, you're typically taking a tour of their home if it's a renovation. And like Karen said, you're paying attention to kind of how people live, what they have, what they like, they don't like, and then gathering notes to create a scope. And then we typically go back, and a lot of times they'll talk about their inspirations, their goals, what they like, they don't like, things like that. But then we'll go back and develop that scope of services. And basically it's kind of like sending back what you heard, and so that they can see it in print and know that maybe we didn't hear, or they didn't say what they thought they said, or, maybe we got it exactly right. But that kind of helps build the foundation of our action list of where we're going and what adventure we're taking with them. And I think that just helps set an understanding of the project.
And at what point, so obviously trust is paramount in a client-designer relationship. How are you trying to build that trust as you get to know this new client? Karen, what do you think?
I think from the beginning, we make sure that there is no judgment. We have no preconceived notions. This is a collaborative and fun process. It can be.
Yeah.
So that trust is built. I mean, I can kind of speak for both of us because we know each other, that we come from years of wisdom behind us. So wherever our clients are, we've been there, we understand them. And so we meet them there. So we give them this comfort of knowing that whatever they need and whatever is not working, we see that. Whatever is working, we see that, and we honor where they are in life, and we try to just enhance where they are.
Are you ever nervous when you meet a client for the first time? Our previous podcast guests who were here talking about what it's like to hire an interior designer, they talked a lot about being nervous to bring a designer, an expert into their home that, clearly needed a special touch, right? Or was lacking in some way. Is that a nerve-wracking process for the two of you? Or what are you feeling? Is it more excitement? Can you describe that?
I think for me, I don't get nervous because, to your point, Karen, we've done this so many times. It's kind of an innate process for me. Like, it's very sincere. And I completely agree with you that so many times when we are hired, or people are considering hiring us, you can see it in them that they're nervous. You can see it that they think, I don't want them to
Judge my
space, and
don't look at
my
this,
God,
it's so dirty.
Yeah.
Oh, I have 3 kids.
Yeah. And I'm thinking,
I don't even see that.
I don't either. I don't. And like, even socially, when sometimes I think people don't invite us over because they're like, oh, I don't want you to judge my space. I'm like, I'm not even seeing it.
About 6 years ago, I held an event at my house. I was chairing a Frank Lloyd Wright event at my house. And I had designers, architects, creatives in my home. I didn't even think about it at the time. But like a year or so ago, that memory came back to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I had all those people in my house. And that was before I even decorated it or designed it. And so I understand that feeling for sure from the point of view of the homeowner. How much do you enjoy the people aspect of your work? Because that's challenging, right? I'm sure to a certain degree, there's lots of different personalities, expectations, from the scale of 1 to 10, where does that fit for you, Karen?
I love the people part. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. We are in people's personal spaces and in their lives for months or years. So if we didn't love that, we couldn't do this. But sometimes it is challenging. And it's just about patience and calm and honoring where they are and listening.
Yeah.
It is people, when it's their home, it's very personal.
Yes.
And it's very sensitive. And so we have to be really careful about allowing them to feel safe where they are.
It's very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
And the way I approach it is, and I say this all the time, it is a complete privilege for people to trust us in collaborating with them to create a space, a home where they are going to enjoy wonderful things in their life and also experience maybe the worst things in their life. I don't take that lightly. It really is a privilege. And yes, you have to be a good listener. You have to be empathetic. You have to put yourself in their shoes. It is not about me. My ego is not part of the process. I mean, obviously they're paying us for our opinion and I will give it, but at the same time, respect,
Kindness,
yeah,
patience.
yes, everything that goes into caring for another human being. I mean, you kind of make them part of your family.
Sure. Absolutely. How do you balance that? Your expertise and what the client says or thinks that she or he wants. I'm sure there are moments when your expertise needs to really be felt, right? How do you balance that with the client?
Why? We answer why. There's always a reason why. And even if somebody wants something, we tell them why it will work or why it won't work. And our honest opinion, and sometimes in a little assertive way, earns their respect. Because again, just like April said, they are paying us for our opinion. And that trust hopefully has been built from the beginning so that we can say what will work and what won't work ultimately.
Can you give me an example of a time when you had to tell the client, you know what, that's not going to work. We need to move in this direction, and maybe how that client took in that information?
I currently have that situation.
Okay.
And so it's easy for me to talk about it. There's something that happens, decision fatigue at the end. We've made every selection, but we're down to a coffee table. This person's going to be so embarrassed. So this coffee table, I understand what they want. And she keeps sending me ideas, but they're the wrong size, scale, color. And I keep saying, it's so hard for me to keep telling you no, but this is the reason why. And so I just allow there to be space for them to accept this and understand that and explore if they want. But ultimately, your room, your home is like a symphony. If one thing is off key, nothing's going to work.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So if you put that coffee table in this room, in this first floor that we've designed, that one thing is going to make it not look, sound, feel right.
Where are you in this process?
Still in the process.
Still in it.
Still
Okay.
in it.
Okay.
There's just patience. Ultimately, we're going to find exactly what she wants. I know it. I'm committed to that.
It's just that time. Things take time.
And sometimes you just have to take a break.
Yes.
Every
just patient.
project gets to that point.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of details and decisions that you have to go through and make on even if it's one room.
Yeah.
People just get tired. They don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
And so you say that's okay. We can pause. We can take a break. Let's regroup. I always approach it with, ultimately, you make the final decision. I put the power back on them, but this is my advice. And this is why. I love that you say the why. I've never thought about that. I think that's great. And you just present facts. It's not about emotion for us. It is for them, but that's why they have us, because we can step outside of that. We're not connected the way they are. I mean, obviously we care,
Right.
but it's not our hard-earned money that they're investing. It's theirs, and there's many psychological reasons behind decisions. And I think I just always want them to know that they make the final decision. And I think that empowers them to listen.
Interesting. Do you tend to hear the same questions, doubts, challenges? People get stuck on one area that you hear over and over again in your projects?
I don't know. I think it's different for everyone, or at least in my opinion. Each person is a little different. I would say overarching, it's just they can't visualize.
Yes.
Maybe the visualization is color for one, scale for another.
And so how do you help clients visualize? Are there specific tools that you can use, or how do you do that, April?
I mean, for me, we do a lot of mood boards, and I hate to call it a board, but we make everything very tactile, so that you can visually see things, so that you can touch things, so that you can understand, the exact piece of furniture, the upholstery, the paint color, lots of actual samples, lots of actual overall presentation.
Do you shop with clients?
I think I used to shop more with clients, but I don't know if it's at my stage in this business, but most of the time people are so busy, they want us to come back with options. There's a few times, like we were just in Chicago with a couple because they actually wanted to be able to sit and use the entire day very effectively.
Right.
So you can go and you can sit and feel and see and, get a really good understanding of various product in a really short amount of time. Unfortunately, St. Louis has a very small opportunity. I mean, luckily we have what we do.
Right.
But I think for them, they just wanted to really power through and get a lot done in one day.
One day.
So, but for the most part, I think that we are more about, people coming into our studio and doing a presentation of, say, option A, option B. And most of the time it's a collaboration of the two that we present.
For clients who want to sit in a sofa that you're recommending or a chair, it's to the trade. How do you communicate either what the chair feels like when you sit, or how deep it might be? Or do you take them somewhere? A lot of times people think, well, can I go into these trade show rooms? How do you handle that? Karen?
There are two wonderful trade show rooms that we use, and clients can go in and sit and test out a certain sofa or brand.
Okay.
And it may not be that style that they ultimately pick, but they understand how the sofa sits, the cushions. So we do have that opportunity.
Okay.
Chicago is a great way to even expand on what we have here. So if the brands aren't here, the vendors aren't here, then we can go to Chicago and sit test in the Chicago showrooms.
Just makes it easy, but we do. I mean, I think a lot of times I try to make it relatable. So for instance, if they're sitting on this particular sofa that feels very comfy, that's in the showroom, but it's not the ultimate style that they're ending up with. Maybe the, arms different, but back's different. I always measure the seat depth, the seat height, the back height, because then you can compare what felt good to them. And you can say, remember, 24 inches deep was perfect for you. This chair is 24 inches deep.
Fabulous.
This back at 34 inches felt wonderful to you, even though you're short and your husband's tall, things like that. So you just start relating.
Okay. Gosh, that's like such a detailed service.
Yes.
to a client. And I think those are the invisible things that take place between client and designer that people who don't work with designers may not be aware of.
Right.
Right. And I mean, it's so simple for us. And again, it just gives them confidence to know, like, oh, you made this so easy.
Right. And the confidence to, these are expensive
Yes.
items.
And you don't want to make a mistake.
Right.
And for us, it's the confidence that we're specifying something that is going to be comfortable. If I'm having a sectional custom made and I know what she likes and it is to those specifications. And luckily we were able to measure. I mean, the one that she wanted was 15 inches off the floor. You can't do that. Who's
Right.
that for? Not a 71-year-old woman. So we were able to measure what's comfortable for her and have something custom made.
So many times people don't pay attention to the measurements. They go online or go to a local showroom like, retail.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with retail. We blend many, many retail items with our custom items. But so many times people don't pay attention and then they're ultimately disappointed or they feel stuck with something that is so much part of the success of that space. And I always amazed at how people are automatically assuming that custom means more expensive.
Okay.
And it doesn't.
Tell us about that. In what sense?
Well, furniture in general is, very expensive or can be, especially if you're looking for something that has a benchmark of, 10 to 15 years, which is really what you should expect of your furniture, if not more. Yeah. You might want to, change the pillows or reupholster after that time frame. But we sell quality products that are made here, that we have control over, that we have relationships with, that we have customer service that is going to back us up. If there's a problem, it is received here. It is checked in, made sure that nothing is wrong with it before it's delivered to your home. And with that, so many times you can pick your cushion, your measurements, your upholstery, and we are at the same price point as many, many retail providers.
You just get more bang for your buck, more personalization.
And that's just it. You are getting your aesthetic. You're not looking like a page in a catalog.
Right.
Right.
And so even if somebody says, oh, I like this brand, well, how do we make that personal for you? You like it because it looks easy. Just like when somebody walks into a spec home, there's nothing really visually that is jarring, but it's easy to look at. And that's what happens with a catalog. It's easy to look at, but is that really reflecting who you are in your aesthetic? And we find so many times it's not. And so if we can give them a sofa at the same price point, but it really reflects who they are and how they would be most comfortable in their home, why would they not?
And so what do you think makes a home special?
I always think about it as layers. I always relate it to clothing. You want to get your jeans and t-shirt just right. And then you layer your blazer or your sweater and your jewelry and your shoes. A room is very similar. You have to have the foundation, but then it's all about layering over that with your pillows, your lighting, your art, accessories, and it's just so much fun to create, something that envelops you. And it doesn't always necessarily mean like it's got to be all colorful. You can do all of that in a monochromatic room through texture. I think that's what it is for me. I don't know about you, Karen.
Karen, what do you?
Also, I love layering in meaningful art or accessories, furniture that they've had for quite some time. It could be just as simple as their grandmother's chair or stool or something that just brings this really wonderful energy into the space. And it's so meaningful and impactful. And it can just be one thing, but that's the one thing that sets off the whole room.
It tells their story.
It tells their story. That's exactly it.
When are you happiest in your job?
Always go back to the connections. I'm in heaven when I'm working and collaborating with my team. I love collaborating and seeing, people in our industry. And then I'm always happy working with clients and getting to that endpoint. I always think of it as, oh, we wait for a baby. But I'm always like, this isn't a regular baby. It's an elephant baby. We're waiting 2 years. I mean, all the work, and you see it come to life. I mean, it just gives me chills every time.
They're still inspired by
I'm
that.
still so passionate. That's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, I wake up every day and I say, I cannot believe I get to do this for a living.
I know.
I cannot believe it. And even our clients, just recently, one of our clients, Molly, and I were in her house measuring, and we were just laughing and having so much fun. And she turned the corner and she said, you two have so much fun together. And that's just, it's magic. And it's just fun.
I mean, there's times,
Definitely.
everything has challenges.
Everything has challenges.
But when you work with people like my team, same with Karen and Molly, you can laugh even in the face of very difficult times,
and we do,
and get crazy sometimes. We always call 3:00 on any given day the bewitching hour, because something happens.
Oh man.
So you're like, I've run out of Gabby. I'm starting to get silly.
Yeah.
Where do you go to see beautiful things and to be inspired in your work? What are some of your favorite places or books or whatever it might be?
For me, it never shuts off. I can be in a restaurant, I can be traveling, I can be on Instagram, I can be anywhere. And I'm looking at the way somebody mitered a corner or installed a floor or the tile layout. I'm inspired all the time. I'd have to do that. Who's going to let me do that?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true. My brain never turns off. And I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like, I can't believe I get to do this. It's just a constant creativity. And I mean, for me personally, travel is huge. I'm constantly reading books, walking through the park, going to the garden, nature,
Sure.
flowers, like the combination of colors that nature presents.
Incredible.
I mean, constantly going back to classic elements, paying attention to architecture, paying attention to order. Nothing's new. It's just how you put it all together.
Reimagined.
Reimagine. I look outside of interior design so many times.
Also, right.
So that you can bring fresh ideas. Nobody wants to keep doing the same thing over and over. And that's what's great about when you collaborate with a new client. One of the things I'm most proud of is when you look on our website, I don't think there's one look. I'm sure there are threads that people might be able to connect that say, I can tell that April Jensen or ADJ Interiors did this. But for me, the solution for each client really should be organic. Right. And it's based on them and their likes, dislikes, and how it all puts together.
Not our agenda.
No.
Never our agenda.
Is there a myth that you want to dispel here today about working with an interior designer?
For me, we started doing a happy hour.
It's such a great idea.
Once a month.
I'm coming next time.
You should. I really want to do this where we collaborate with other designers. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But we started a happy hour for the sheer reason that we want to make good design available to anybody that wants it. And we know it can be intimidating to think about hiring a designer. Like, do I really need one? Can I afford one? This is a free happy hour. If you don't know what paint color to use, bring your swatches in. We'll give you our advice.
Incredible, everyone. If you're listening, do not pass up this opportunity.
Bring floor plan. We'll help you with your layout. For us, it's great to get to know people in our community. We're new to Webster. We moved our studio a year and a half ago. So we wanted to be out there and really just connecting with people. And to me, that's what it goes back to. The connection, the human spirit, that mind, body, soul.
Love that. How about you, Karen? Do you have a myth about interior design or designers in general that you want to, dispel?
Yeah. We are people. there's not an ego that comes with it. It is accessible. We are kind. There isn't attitude. It's just like you would hire an expert for your lawyer, for your accountant, all of those professionals. You're hiring a designer because you need help in your home. And it doesn't have to be unattainable.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a luxury.
Yeah.
It really
because
is
we're saving them
so much money
in the end.
because you're not making mistakes.
You're not making mistakes.
You're not buying that
Yes.
sofa that now you have to put in your basement because it's the wrong size or
Right.
scale or color.
I think that's something that is so often overlooked by the homeowner. I mean, people think they can do this sort of like on their own, or they can get through it on their own.
Darn
but like,
HGTV.
I just think there's so much that goes into
Well,
design.
I can't tell you how many times we've gotten a phone call where people have already started their project and they're in the throes of having to make detailed decisions and they are overwhelmed.
Lost,
They're
I'm sure.
scared. Their project is on hold because they don't know how to do it. They did not anticipate, nor did they understand the amount of detailed questions they were going to have to ask
Right.
or answer.
Yeah.
Like the builder, do you want these outlets? What kind of can lights do you want? What's your countertop material?
The edge profile.
Right. And that process that the builder needs always seems a little backwards. Like so many times the pretty stuff comes last because they need everything before they close up those walls, before that drywall goes in. So you have to know your plumbing, you have to know your electrical before maybe you even understand what this room looks like.
Final question. What is one piece of advice that you would offer an aspiring interior designer here in St. Louis? Karen, you want to take that?
Sure. If you're an aspiring interior designer and you're starting a business, start with the processes, because this is all about picking pretty things. That is not most of the job. And so to stay organized and to understand who we really are in the process needs processes, needs procedures, processes, ground up.
I think it's always a little surprising to new designers how much paperwork, how much
Running a
organization. I would give the advice, work for someone that has a lot of experience. Be a hard worker. Be curious. You have to be passionate. You have to be passionate about all of interior design. When I was little, I always wanted to be a business owner. I always played business. I always played office. And that is a lot of what we do. The creativity part of it is the underlying driving factor, but we would not be successful interior designers and our clients really would not like us if we did not have a process in place and be able to stay organized and offer them that kind of detailed information, whether it's our invoices, our timesheets, our accounting, everything that goes into it.
I think that makes sense. I often say that my job is just problem solving along.
Pretty much.
That's how I feel.
My job. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, we are color theorists, researchers, we are
Psychologists.
Therapists, psychologists, marital counselors.
I mean, really is putting a puzzle together.
Well, I'm a huge fan, clearly, of the two of you, but also interior design in general and what designers can bring to a home. And I think we're all just so fortunate to have the level of talent that we do in St. Louis.
There's immense talent.
Right. And then on top of it, the beautiful housing stock and architecture that we get to enjoy. So thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
today.
It
This
was
really
great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
And now on to Bee's Views. I visited the Butterfly House last weekend at Faust Park. I hadn't been there in years, and I thought my mom would actually enjoy spending the afternoon there. And you know what? It just doesn't get better than walking through a glass solarium brimming with tropical plants and thousands of butterflies in free flight. So if you haven't been, or maybe you haven't been in a while, I definitely recommend it. It's such a unique experience. Are you a fan of deco art? Step into the glamour of the era during an open house at the Deco Fortress on South Broadway. This historic home has tons of period details, sleek design elements, and vintage furnishings. Later in the day, you can take in a fascinating talk on the rise of this iconic style, brought to you by Landmarks Association of St. Louis, April 26th from 2 to 5 p.m. And in honor of Shaw Nature Reserve's 100th anniversary, Missouri wildlife photographer Danny Brown will share his favorite images and anecdotes from more than 15 years of photographing plants, birds, mammals, and other wildlife at the Nature Reserve. This event will take place on October 22nd at Missouri Botanical Garden from 11 to noon. Registration is required. That's it from me, everyone. Thanks for listening to the House of Lou podcast. Be sure to follow us and share the episodes with your friends. Be in touch. Subscribe to our design and home newsletter at stlmag.com/newsletters and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. You can follow me at VT Lookbook. If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you choose to listen. We'll see you next time. And just remember, there's so much to see in St. Louis if you know where to look.